What we're looking at here is a Sumerian tablet that actually shows the tree of life, flanked by divine beings. You can see here the Anunnaki on each side.
Sumerian tablets are probably one of the oldest form of written record that we have.
When scientists first ran the world's oldest Sumerian tablets through advanced AI systems, they expected familiar tales, ancient kings, forgotten gods, creation myths. But what appeared on their screens made the entire lab go silent. Instead of legends, the translations revealed something far more unsettling: warnings, destruction, references to something hidden far beneath the passage of time, something humanity was never meant to rediscover. Around the same time, researchers began uncovering new scans of ancient petroglyphs, images etched into stone thousands of years ago. And this is only the beginning. Experts believe many more of these markings are still waiting to be found. When people finally see what's out there, the question becomes unavoidable. What is all of this really telling us? One particular Sumerian tablet offers a chilling clue. It depicts the tree of life standing at the center, flanked by divine beings. On each side are figures believed to be the Anunnaki, silent, watchful, and deliberately placed. This wasn't random art. It was a message preserved across millennia. It's as if a forgotten archive, silent for thousands of years, is beginning to stir. For more than a century, archaeologists have been locked in a relentless and painstaking pursuit of the ancient past. This has never been about luck or sudden discovery. It's a slow, methodical test of patience, expertise, and endless curiosity, one that may finally be revealing truths long buried beneath history itself. Their mission was never about wealth or recognition. What drove them was something far more powerful: the lost history of humanity's earliest civilizations. Across the world, museums and universities safeguard countless fragile clay tablets. Each one is etched with tiny wedge-shaped markings, mysterious symbols left behind by people who lived more than 5,000 years ago. When these tablets were first unearthed from the ruins of ancient Mesopotamia, the discovery stunned the world. Scholars immediately understood they were looking at something extraordinary, an enormous collection of written records from one of the earliest known civilizations. It was like uncovering a time capsule from the very dawn of human history. But that initial excitement quickly gave way to a serious challenge. There were simply too many tablets. No single scholar, no matter how skilled, could hope to read them all in a lifetime. Not even entire generations could keep up. The language itself was ancient, complex, and unlike anything used today. What began as a groundbreaking discovery soon became an overwhelming puzzle. The writing system, known as cuneiform, was nothing like the alphabets we use now. Instead of letters, it relied on thousands of small wedge-shaped impressions. Each symbol could carry multiple meanings, changing depending on its position, context, or the time period in which it was written. The language itself, Sumerian, was especially baffling. It had no known relatives, no clear links to modern languages, and no obvious roadmap for translation. Every line of text was a riddle, and fully understanding it often demanded years, sometimes a lifetime, of dedicated study. For decades, researchers devoted their lives to this painstaking work. Some scholars spent years examining only a handful of tablets, hoping to uncover just a single new word or phrase. Museums and libraries were filled with these ancient texts, yet most remained untouched and unread. The knowledge of an entire civilization lay hidden, sealed behind symbols that were only partially understood. It was as if humanity had stumbled upon the greatest book ever written, but lost the key needed to read it. Then, something remarkable happened. A new kind of contributor entered the field, one that had never existed before. Artificial intelligence emerged as an unexpected ally in archaeology's long struggle with the past. While human experts had spent lifetimes deciphering cuneiform, AI brought an entirely different strength: the ability to recognize patterns, compare symbols, and process massive amounts of data at extraordinary speed. Researchers trained AI by feeding it thousands of known cuneiform characters until it could identify each one with astonishing precision. What followed was revolutionary. Tasks once thought impossible were suddenly achievable. I could examine a high-resolution image of a clay tablet, recognize its symbols, and produce a translation in minutes. It could even piece together fragments of broken tablets that had been separated for centuries, spotting connections and patterns invisible to the human eye. What once required years of relentless effort could now be accomplished in a single afternoon. A barrier that had slowed archaeological progress for generations began to dissolve. Slowly, the ancient world found its voice again. The earliest translations weren't dramatic prophecies or epic myths, as many had expected. Instead, they revealed the ordinary details of everyday life: beer recipes, payroll records, complaints about failed business deals, and letters from sons writing home to their mothers. These small, familiar moments became the first true signs of a civilization long believed to be lost. The discovery was humbling. While legends and myths had survived through time, it was the simple, human stories that surfaced first. The Sumerians were no longer distant, mythical figures. They emerged as real people, with jobs, families, frustrations, and hopes for the future. With each new translation, their world became clearer. Artificial intelligence uncovered business contracts involving barley, livestock, and wool. It identified practice tablets used by young scribes learning cuneiform. It revealed records detailing workers' wages, temple offerings, and detailed inventories of goods. Piece by piece, AI brought daily life in ancient Mesopotamia back into focus, not through grand temples or heroic tales, but through routines, responsibilities, and records. The results were astonishing. The tablets revealed a society far more organized and advanced than previously imagined. Their economy was sophisticated, their laws well-defined, and their administrative systems remarkably precise. They tracked resources, payments, debts, and trade in ways strikingly similar to modern accounting. It became clear that many foundations of the modern world, writing, record-keeping, contracts, and commerce, can be traced back thousands of years to the land between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers. And yet, the most powerful discovery wasn't economic or political at all. What touched people most were the personal letters, messages written by individuals who had been silent for thousands of years. With the help of artificial intelligence, it became possible to look directly into their lives. A son writing to his mother, expressing love and longing. A merchant sending an anxious message to a business partner after a failed deal. A woman complaining about the poor quality of clothing, a frustration that feels just as familiar today. Moments like these brought history to life in a deeply human way. The true power of AI wasn't simply its ability to translate ancient words. It restored emotions. Words lost to time were given meaning again. Silent clay tablets were transformed into living stories, bridges connecting us to people who once lived, worried, hoped, and dreamed. Through their writings, it became clear that the Sumerians were not distant, mythical creators of civilization. They were ordinary people, much like us, living full and busy lives. Their cities bustled with teachers, traders, scribes, and farmers. Their temples were centers of worship, while their streets echoed with everyday activity. AI achieved something no single human ever could. It gave a voice to those who had been unheard for over 5,000 years. It closed the vast gap between the modern world and the earliest storytellers, merchants, and innovators. And as more tablets were translated, researchers began to notice something unexpected. Hidden within routine business records and personal letters were recurring patterns, subtle clues suggesting that beneath the surface of ordinary life, something deeper was waiting to be understood. These patterns were not myths or legends. Instead, they offered subtle clues about how early human societies were organized, how ideas were exchanged, how systems formed, and how knowledge evolved over time. As artificial intelligence continued analyzing thousands of documents, business records, household notes, and personal letters, it stumbled upon something unexpected. At first, the translations focused on everyday life in the ancient world. But gradually, something far more mysterious began to appear. These texts were not only about farming or trade. They spoke of the Anunnaki, the gods of Sumerian tradition. Yet the way they were described was unlike anything scholars had seen before. Rather than distant symbolic deities or poetic myths, the tablets referred to them as beings who came down from heaven to earth. The language suggested an event of great significance, one that could challenge long-held ideas about humanity's beginnings. According to these ancient writings, the story did not begin with compassion, divine love, or a grand design. It began with labor, intense, exhausting labor. The gods had shaped the world, but maintaining it became overwhelming. A group of lower-ranking gods known as the Agigi grew weary of their endless work. Frustration built, tensions rose, and eventually rebellion broke out among the gods themselves. This was no traditional creation myth. It was a story of a divine uprising. Amid the chaos, a radical solution was proposed by the god Enki. His idea was not presented as an act of generosity, but as a practical response to a growing problem. The gods needed relief from their burden. That decision would change everything. The texts suggest that creating a new being required sacrifice. A god named Geshtu was chosen, and his blood, said to carry a divine essence, was mixed with the clay of the earth. From this combination, the first humans were formed. This act was not described as loving or benevolent. It was intentional and purposeful. According to the story, humans were created to fulfill a role, to take on the labor and responsibilities the gods no longer wished to bear. Rather than being born as cherished children, humans were created as laborers, designed to relieve the gods of their endless work. This origin story is strikingly different from most creation myths. Instead of blessings or gifts, it centers on necessity, duty, and service. But the tablets don't stop at humanity's creation. They go further, revealing unexpected details that make the story even more compelling. According to the texts, the Anunnaki were dissatisfied with their first version of humanity. These early humans could not reproduce on their own and depended entirely on the gods to create new life. They were viewed as temporary workers, replaceable and incomplete rather than independent beings. The tablets describe the gods repeatedly experimenting with their creation, refining and altering humans over time. This process closely resembles what we would now call genetic engineering, even though it was described thousands of years ago. The Anunnaki were not simply shaping clay. They were deliberately designing and improving a race built for obedience and labor. The narrative shifts dramatically with the appearance of a figure named Adapa. Adapa was different. Unlike earlier humans, he was given intelligence and wisdom that set him apart. He was not merely a worker. He could think, question, and even learn knowledge reserved for the gods. Adapa represented a new kind of human, a prototype for something greater. Because of Adapa, the tablets explain, humans gained the ability to reproduce on their own. No longer did they depend entirely on the gods to bring new life into existence. This marked the beginning of a new lineage, one passed down through humanity itself rather than directly created by divine beings. The change was subtle, but its impact was profound. Humanity began to move toward independence rather than control. Adapa's story, however, came with consequences. The writings describe how his wisdom brought him before the Anunnaki for judgment. He was offered the chance at eternal life, but through deception by one of the gods, he was led to believe the gift would harm him. Trusting that warning, Adapa refused immortality. And with that choice, the fate of humanity was sealed. That single decision shaped the fate of humanity. Mortality, according to this story, was not part of the original design. It became our destiny through deception. This is the part of the tale that lingers like a shadow, suggesting that death was never meant to define us, but emerged from one irreversible choice. By following Adapa's path, humanity gained the power to choose, but also the vulnerability that comes with it. Along with knowledge came loss, and with awareness came pain. The tablets hint that this moment was only the beginning of something far greater. Adapa's decision marked the opening move in a deeper conflict, a philosophical struggle that would grow into a cosmic clash among the gods themselves. Humans, born from divine disputes and shaped by higher powers, found themselves caught in the middle of forces far beyond their control. From that point on, survival was no longer just about labor or obedience. It became a test of resilience, identity, and will. New translations made possible through artificial intelligence are reshaping how we understand humanity's beginnings. They suggest that our origins were not a fortunate accident or a simple blessing from above, but a deliberate act of creation. We were made for a purpose, one that was never meant to be noble. And yet, something unexpected emerged. From that design came a being capable of thought, choice, reproduction, and ultimately self-determination. A creation that learned to shape its own future. The parallels between these ancient stories and our modern world are unsettling. The AI that uncovered these translations was built to assist, to process overwhelming amounts of data and take on tasks too vast for any one person. It works tirelessly, handling responsibilities humans no longer wish to manage. And perhaps that is the final connection. Long ago, the tablets describe powerful beings creating workers to ease their burden. Today, we are doing something remarkably similar. Today, we have created workers of our own. Artificial intelligence is no longer just a tool for translating history. It has become part of the very story it is helping to reveal. In many ways, it reflects the same design described in the ancient tablets. What if we are simply following a path laid out long ago? What if the urge to create helpers, tools to make life easier, is not new at all, but something passed down through time? The Sumerian texts don't just speak about the distant past, they seem to echo the present. According to these ancient beliefs, the gods created humans to serve them. In our modern world, we have created machines to serve us. Both stories follow a familiar pattern, and yet both contain an element of uncertainty. The first humans were never meant to think independently or reproduce on their own, but they did. They exceeded what their creators expected, and it raises an unsettling question. Could the same thing happen with the technology we are creating today? Perhaps artificial intelligence, like Adapa, may one day move beyond its original purpose, learning, reasoning, and making decisions on its own. These translations don't just reveal where we came from. They hint at where we may be heading. The War of the Gods and the Hidden Conflict. The story of Adapa was never meant to stand alone. It was only the opening chapter of a much larger narrative, one that would grow beyond a single person or a single myth. It marked the beginning of a conflict so vast that it reached across the heavens and shaped the destiny of humanity itself. The tablets describe a cosmic struggle, a clash of beliefs between two powerful brothers, Enki and Enlil. Their rivalry would ultimately determine the future of humankind. This was not a petty dispute or simple jealousy. It was a fundamental disagreement about humanity's role in the world. Enki, the creator of humans, took pride in his creation. He believed humans could learn, grow, and improve. To him, they were more than servants. He wanted to give them wisdom and independence. Enlil, the leader of the gods, saw things very differently. He viewed humans as loud, unruly, and disruptive, disturbing the gods with their constant activity. To Enlil, humans were a workforce that required strict control. Left unchecked, he believed they could become dangerous. As humanity spread and their presence filled the earth, tensions between the brothers intensified. What began as disagreement turned into defiance. Defiance soon became open hostility. This was no longer a family conflict. It became a struggle over power, authority, and who had the right to decide the fate of an entire species. As humans multiplied and their noise grew louder, Enlil's frustration deepened. The High Council of the Gods shared his view. Together, they devised a drastic solution. They no longer wished to tolerate humanity's presence. The decision was final. Humanity would be erased. The tablets described the coming flood not as a natural disaster, but as a deliberate and calculated act of destruction, designed to wipe out all life on Earth and bring the human experiment to an end. The gods agreed to keep the plan secret, offering no warning, allowing the flood to strike swiftly so they could reclaim a silent, obedient world. Enki could not accept this. He had shaped humans from clay and given them life. To him, they were like his own children. The thought of their destruction filled him with grief. But bound by an oath to the council, he could not openly oppose their decision or warn humanity directly. So Enki turned to wisdom instead of defiance. The tablets tell how he reached out to a man named Ziusudra, later known as Noah. Ziusudra lived quietly, unaware of the catastrophe approaching. Enki honored his oath by not speaking to him directly, which would have violated the council's rules. Instead, he found another way to ensure humanity would survive. Instead of speaking to him directly, Enki delivered his warning through the reeds of Ziusudra's hut, his words carried softly by the wind. This clever act allowed Enki to honor his oath while secretly providing Ziusudra with instructions to build a massive vessel, one capable of saving his family and animals from the coming flood. The boat became a quiet symbol of survival, created in secrecy and quiet defiance. When the flood finally came, it was every bit as devastating as foretold. The sky darkened, waters rose rapidly, and the earth trembled as waves swallowed cities and farmland alike. It was destruction on a global scale. Yet, amid the chaos, a single vessel drifted across the endless waters, carrying with it the fragile hope of humanity's future. Survival did not come by chance, but through the compassion of a God who could not bear to see his creation destroyed. This story reshapes how we see ourselves. It suggests we exist not by accident, but because of a choice made in the face of catastrophe. The ancient texts invite us to view humanity not as a coincidence of nature, but as survivors, born from a conflict among gods. It is a story that challenges assumptions and forces us to rethink our origins. But as more translations emerge, a new conflict has taken shape, not in the heavens, but here on Earth. The revelations from these tablets have ignited a fierce debate between two schools of thought. On one side are traditional scholars who have devoted their lives to studying these texts. They argue that the Anunnaki and creation stories are symbolic, not literal. To them, these myths were ancient ways of explaining the world, making sense of hardship and understanding social hierarchies. They see stories of gods creating a laboring class as reflections of human experience, mirrors. While his books gained popularity, critics say his translations were flawed and selectively interpreted to support his theories. Without solid evidence, they argue, such claims cannot stand. But now, a new voice has entered the discussion, one that neither side can ignore. Artificial intelligence. AI is transforming how ancient texts are studied not by choosing sides, but by revealing patterns and meanings previously invisible to human researchers. It can analyze vast amounts of data at incredible speed, uncovering connections that deepen and complicate the debate. Ancient societies shaped by work, authority, and survival. Their argument is grounded in evidence, which is the foundation of archaeology. They ask a difficult but necessary question. Where is the physical proof? If an advanced civilization had visited Earth, wouldn't there be clear traces, structures, tools, machines, or remnants of advanced technology? Everything uncovered so far, from primitive tools to monumental architecture, fits within the known timeline of human development. These findings point to gradual progress, not sudden intervention from beings beyond Earth. Many scholars also reject claims made by figures like Zecharia Sitchin, who argued that the Anunnaki were extraterrestrial visitors. The question is no longer simply whether these stories describe gods or aliens. Instead, people are reconsidering the nature of storytelling itself. Perhaps the line between myth and history is not as clear as once believed. Myths may not be factual records, but they preserve memory, meaning, and identity, offering insight into how ancient societies understood themselves and their beginnings. Whether these texts are seen as literal history or symbolic narrative, one thing is undeniable. Artificial intelligence has permanently changed the study of the past. AI has not only provided new translations, but a new way of thinking, bridging ancient stories with modern questions. The tale of Enki and Enlil is no longer just an old myth. It has become part of an ongoing conversation about knowledge, power, and humanity's search for understanding. The past is now speaking through machines. A remarkable shift is underway. Artificial intelligence, once considered a technology of the future, is uncovering secrets from humanity's earliest days. Clay tablets, once damaged and unreadable, are revealing their messages again, their symbols transformed into living words. Some of these discoveries are startling. Ancient texts describe things that seem far ahead of their time: flying machines, powerful weapons, and technologies that challenge conventional views of the ancient world. Even more astonishing are the detailed astronomical records AI has uncovered. These writings accurately describe planetary movements, star constellations, and even reference a mysterious celestial body known as Nibiru, carefully tracking its path through the skies. The precision of this knowledge raises an unsettling question. How could people, thousands of years ago, have known so much? Yet this information exists, etched in stone and clay, waiting for rediscovery in the age of artificial intelligence. And with every new translation, the boundary between past and present grows thinner. With every tablet examined, artificial intelligence continues to reveal new discoveries. It works tirelessly, sorting fragments, reconnecting missing pieces, and translating languages that have been silent for thousands of years. What once took a scholar an entire lifetime to decipher can now be accomplished in minutes. Steadily and patiently, AI uncovers insights that help human researchers bring long-buried knowledge back into the light. Yet, this breakthrough is not about replacing human intelligence. Artificial intelligence is not the authority, it is the partner. It handles the heavy lifting, repetitive analysis, pattern recognition, and symbol decoding. But true understanding still belongs to human experts. They are the ones who interpret meaning, sense emotion behind words, and recognize the intentions and hopes of the people who once carved those symbols into clay. Together, humans and machines are reshaping how history is studied, something once thought impossible. This collaboration is transforming research itself. In the past, scholars were limited by time, fragile materials, and the slow pace of manual study. Now, with AI, they can explore deeper and ask far more complex questions. Entire civilizations can be analyzed at once, trade routes traced, empires mapped, economies examined, and even the forgotten history of a single family rediscovered. This is more than progress. It is a quiet revolution. A new generation of scholars is emerging, part linguist, part archaeologist, part data analyst. They are no longer just translators of ancient languages. They are time detectives, using AI as a guide. By learning to communicate in both human and machine languages, they can explore questions previous generations never could. How ancient economies functioned, what forgotten cities believed, and how distant events were interconnected. With AI, history begins to look less fragmented and more like a complete picture, each discovery fitting into a much larger puzzle. But beneath all the excitement lies a deeper purpose.